O.P. Jindal Global University is an institution of eminence established by the Government of India. We are located in Sonipat, Haryana. The reason we are here in Chennai is to promote the idea of building world-class universities in India and how the national education policy will have a profound impact on the future. The development of engineering colleges in this state has contributed to a large extent the development of IT revolution across South India. The next big evolution that has to happen in the state of Tamil Nadu is to focus on building world-class universities. I don't see any reason why, if students and graduates of Indian universities can achieve the highest level of excellence after having gone to United States and other parts of the world, why can't we create such institutions in India? Why can't we have world-class universities in India? For a long time, this was a challenge that enabled many institutions to aspire, but only few could actually achieve. Today, the national education policy has provided a comprehensive institutional framework that can help Indian institutions to achieve that excellence. What we intend to do is to create a framework of how we can actually achieve this. The policy document that we have released today, which is about a 10-point growth and reform plan for Indian universities, where we have articulated and identified what are the 10 important things that we need to do so that we can not only build world-class universities in India, but also enable, empower, facilitate, and actually imagine a world-class education within existing Indian higher education institutions. The demographic dividend that we are all proud of, which is 850 million people who are less than 35 years of age, this demographic dividend may end up becoming a demographic disaster if you don't focus on quality, because a large number of educated youth who are unemployed and unemployable could become a nightmare for any democracy. We need to be vigilant about the implications of unemployment, and particularly educated unemployment, and that's why we need to focus on quality and excellence. We also need to recognize that the future of Indian society and global society will depend upon how we are able to harness new ideas in the fields of science and technology, in medicine, in liberal arts, in humanities, in social sciences, in law, in business management. These ideas need to emerge out of Indian universities. India has to play a civilizational leadership role that we had played over 2000 years ago when Nalanda, Takshashila, Vallabhi, Vikramshila and other type of institutions across the country saw the evolution of education. Long before Oxford, which is 800 years old, long before Bologna, which is 900 years old, long before Harvard, Yale and Stanford, India had such institutions. And we need to retrace that history when it comes to quality and excellence. I want to end by saying that the national education policy has laid the foundation and provided a pathway for building world-class universities. It is now up to all of us, and all of us as educators, as well as every constituency in India, including in the state of Tamil Nadu, to recognize this role and responsibility that we have, which will have huge implications for public policy and governance of the future. Thank you very much.
Which is Indian Education Dialogues, and I'm very, very grateful to all of you for gracing this occasion with your presence, and we look forward to interacting with you. Now, to set a little bit of context about the Indian Education Dialogues and the conversation that we want to have with you. As you all may be aware, the landscape of Indian education is fast changing. The way we looked at education perhaps a decade earlier is not the same way that we're looking at education today. And something that has contributed in the very, very recently to this reimagining of Indian education is the National Education Policy 2020. The National Education Policy 2020 marks a very watershed moment in the context of the education landscape in India, where it wants to reimagine Indian education, through inclusion and equality, equity, and excellence in education. Now, how do we look at Indian higher education institutions in the context of this vision that NEP proposes, and what kind of role that institutions such as ours, OP Jindal Global University, which has been recognized by Government of India as an institution of eminence, can play and has been playing and has the potential to play in this reimagination. Now, if you look at national education policy, we've had 3 national education policies till date, right? We had one in 1968, we had the second policy in 1986, and nearly 34 years after the second policy, we are now looking at the third one, which came in 2020. And it marks a sort of massive departure from the way the earlier education policies have imagined education. In the context of higher education, the National Education Policy proposes sweeping changes. It talks about opening up higher education to foreign universities. It talks about regulatory changes. It talks about introducing 4-year multidisciplinary undergraduate program. It talks about a flexible entry-exit options for undergrad students. It talks about an academic bank of credit, right, where their pool of credit will be recorded. It talks about multidisciplinary research-driven institutions. In fact, it talks about phasing out institutions who are dedicated to one stream, and by 2040 moving towards completely multidisciplinary institutions of higher education. It also proposes very significant changes at the school education level. Unlike the 1986 National Education Policy that pushed for a 10+2 structure, the National Education Policy 2020 proposes for a 5+3+3+4. And it focuses on vocational education, it focuses on experiential learning and critical thinking at the level of school education. Now, in this context, I would like to invite Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar